launched to the market, through how the end product will look like, and now and how actually it will be used. Now, this will take in account all the use cases and all the features that the product will have. Now, it's expected that the designers will be designing a product based on who is going to be using it, the end user of the product. And the component of actually having designers is the fact that you don't want to have a product where you'll have to now and then have to give people trainings to actually how to use it. On the evolution of computers and computing, and to the date when people started using computers, it was software applications were just built for the sake of functionality. It was not about the design. The design was just something which is extra, but they could not take care of that. So now that we are in a modern era and we have actually advanced, design becomes a very big component to actually doing a software development or developing a product at all. Now, this you take into consideration prototyping and things like that. Now, the third part becomes the implementation. Now, the designer ships the prototypes and the design that they think that's actually good for that product, then gives them to the developers, and developers have to now code it now or make it a reality. Then comes the QA team to test if all the functionalities that we say that we'll be building are actually working. Then comes the part of deploying. Then after deploying, you do a bit of maintenance because there's always issues. Now you analyze how your products have been impactful in the market. Now let's see the part of designer versus developer paradox. Now we all assume that we are all on the same team, and this happens every day as I manage different products that I work with. So you'll have a designer product, and you have the business people actually approving the design of that product. Just to get it to the developer, and the developer at first they will accept it, be like, okay, I think it's a good design, and it's useful. Just as the project is going somewhere in between, something can't be done, and people focus on only the functionality part of it. So a button was supposed to be blue, the developers thought like, okay, I'll just make it white because actually it works. But forgetting the initial design of the component. So you kind of find that teams now, when the project is ongoing and actually things are intense, people get, they start fighting over these things which developers consider trivial, like, why are you saying about this button being blue? Why it could be red and it just works anyway? Forgetting that this is not about how it works, rather it's about how it looks and how it impacts the end user. Now, there's also a part of, which is another crucial part about the users. Now, the users are their own kind, because once you're developing a product, well, from the ideation process, the user is not there. You anticipate the needs of the users and you try to deliver it to them. But however, and it has happened in most cases, where you think like you have the best design, a very intuitive way of actually interacting your product, until you take your product to market and the way people interact with it is actually way different. So I have this example over here on this side, whereby the designers, crafted a better way to actually get to that destination, and the users did cut across. From the designer mindset was this would be the best way to get to the destination, but the users rather, they're looking for a most convenient way to actually get something done, and not mostly the most fancy way to actually do it. Now, this way you see the paradox between now a design and the design which has been approved, and how the end users actually react to that design of itself. There's this quote like software application design shouldn't start from the designers, rather it should start from the users, and that's where we should be actually focusing our attention to. We find a lot of products not being able to be delivered in time just because the users were neglected to the final part of launching a product just to find out that this particular product doesn't actually cater for the end user's needs. Now this is very expensive to actually go back to this entire cycle again, and two, it's like you're misusing your own resources. So let's say you have the same pool of designers, same pool of developers who have to work on other projects as well. It becomes very difficult to redo the same thing which has been cut across. Rather than if we involve the end user from the beginning to even approve the designs themselves, we'll have actually we could have minimized the amount of risk that we encounter along the way. Yeah, and another part is about the functionalities. Now, developers worry about the functionality, and that's the key thing that they look at while they're actually coding the product. Now, also from the right hand side, you'll see that there's a developer who thought they made a very intuitive user interface, and the functionality is only right, and everything is where it's supposed to be, just for the users to be mingling all around it. So this is a classic case of what happens once we launch products to the market, really. It becomes the users have their own set of needs they want, which may not be necessarily the way we anticipated it as people who are on the background creating the product. Now, as you see this, we could actually minimize the amount of actually time spent in production in actually developing a product if we involve the end users from the beginning. And this can be done in multiple ways. One, it could be done by A/B testing. That means like you take a part of the functionality to the market and you try it out. You have different samples and you try them out. But I know this could be for startups. It could be, man, we don't have that budget to actually be doing this. But this doesn't necessarily have to be like a more sophisticated way of actually doing it. You can even call your friends. You can even call and like layman people to come in if that is your pool of people who will be using it, and ask them to use your product midway while it's not yet final. Maybe two or three features to be tested, and you see how they interact with your platform, and from there you can gauge now if your product is actually solving a user's need, or it's just another product which is like mingling in between them. And this is kind of test make it easier to actually get a product which will go out there and actually be a winning product, a product which actually people will use, and a product that actually will change lives. Because I have seen this time and time again. You will develop a product which you think it's nice, you think it's good, just to take it out there and nobody uses it. There is no disappointment to a software developing team as getting a product out there and to just find out that users are not actually using it and users are actually not interacting with it. And this has happened from the bigger companies like Google to startups. And this is something which I call the ballroom product. That we sit in a ballroom, we actually think that the market needs this kind of product right now because of our needs, because we think this could be actually a pressing need to the market without actually doing a market research and verifying that actually that is an actual need which actually needs to be solved, and a better way to go about this. Yeah, so after if we consider these things as a team and as companies, and this could go all the way to like startups with 3 people, 4 people, 5, to a big companies, we could be in a way to make actually better products which actually solve our own needs. There's a big chunk of a wave that we're actually battling now in Africa, where it's a copycat. Like we think something which worked in a first world or worked in Silicon Valley could actually work here, which is a misconception that most founders do most developing teams do, because we fail to understand that for something to work in USA doesn't mean necessarily to work here, because there's different factors to that. One could be economic structure. Our people are mostly low income earners. So if you're making a product where they have to, like a fintech product, you have to be mindful of that fact. You have to be mindful of as much as our penetration rate of internet right now is like for Tanzania as today's date is like 87% penetration of internet. That figure on itself could lie to you, as everybody could actually afford to use an application. Just to get into the market, you find that you have maybe 10,000 active users if you are lucky. So we have to actually spend much time on research and design before we even start production. And there's certain cases where you actually have to just do something for you to actually find out. I believe in that, and sometimes some people got lucky and got out with that, but most of us may not have that luxury to do. And most of us have like confined resources, which you can only use them once. So if you're gonna do something once and once only, you might as well as do a lot of research and a lot of and a lot of like design and a lot of user friendly designs, and actually trying them in the market before you actually start developing a product. That is to reduce the amount of time that you're going to do that project and actually the costing to it. And you could use the leftover resources to actually do another thing. So that's what I wanted to actually share in this year's DevFest event. Hope it has been insightful. Looking forward to hearing from you, hearing from different participants in the chat groups, and and we're all here to just make our ecosystem better, to actually solve our problems. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you for your talk. It was very insightful. If anyone has a question, you can drop them in the chat room.
There's a question from Brother Robert. He said, excellent point. Okay, actually, he said the screen. Okay, this was the first one. He has shared a quote from Steve Carl, Rocket Surgery Made Easy. It's a great book on how to do this kind of testing. He said, excellent points. What resources do you recommend to learn more? Okay, so one thing that I've been doing recently has been actually to do, there are tools online, but most of them are actually from the first world. So what I do is I take these skills, like I take some courses, let's say on Coursera or on Udemy, but I also personalize them to fit our market. So for instance, if I want to launch a product about maybe food delivery, I would actually do a research, like go out there, like go to actually people who will be actually end users and interviewing. And I said this maybe during the weekend, where you can actually do a questionnaire and gauge out on how people will use. And from the prototyping point, we make different prototypes. We make them in pictures and get asked around and how they can actually use, or which design they think actually works. And that minimizes the amount of time we actually use on development. Yes. Yeah, so if maybe there's another question or any other addition.
Thank you, Bulengera. Thank you for your talk. We really appreciate for making time to talk to our DevFest. We would love to hear more from you. We have learned a lot. We hope we can get to hear like more of the user perspective side of the life that we don't understand, but because most of the time we developers tend to make products, maybe sometimes we think of ourselves without thinking of the person exactly who is going to use it. We just follow our preferences. Yeah. So this talk was very insightful for us.
Definitely. Definitely. I mean, I can also understand the developers because it's tricky sometimes to actually develop things, and everybody wants an easier way out to what they're doing. I get a lot of, I get a lot of conflicts with my developers when I just tell them, you know what, actually the users want to have this button on the left side. They're like, no, man, it's already on the right. It does the job, but hey, that's the market has stated. It's not about us. It's about the end user. So it's just having empathy and actually having a way to deal with these things.
So have you ever gone to the ground and see like exactly how the users are operating, or you're being a user yourself?
No. So I have been a user myself and actually gauge the product from how I've interacted with it. But I have found out over time, if you use a product for so long, and if during the production time you become numb to it. So I actually take it out there, and I also get surprised myself because I get insights of things that I never even thought about. There were actually issues until I get to the users and they start clicking. So for instance, there was this product, we had a plus button on it. And what we meant for that plus button was someone to add another photo on it, just to get to the market, and the users were using that plus button to add a product. So we kind of thought, okay, so intuitively users think this is a button to actually add a product and not to actually add a photo. So we have to change that functionality to what the users actually want. So it's a mix of everything. And most of the time, if you're part of the team, you're also mostly blind to actually what the users need. So time and again, if you can, get to the end users and interview maybe 3 or 4 people, depending on how much budget you have, to just get the real insights.
Thank you for that. So for the plus button, adding a photo and adding, what was it supposed to add?
So it was, we wanted
add a photo.
A user to,
then what was the user were using to add a product?
Adding. So yeah, they were using it to. They thought it was to add a product.
Is it not a training?
Yeah,
is it not a training issue?
So usually it's not a training issue. Why? Why is it not a training issue? Because when you're taking a product to the market, they already products which have gone there before, and in a way, these products have shaped the way people interact with products on that line. So, for instance, if you're making a spreadsheet product, a product which does numbers and automating, let's say, automating what graphs or things in that business category, you know that people have been using Excel for the longest time. So if Excel does an equal sign and brackets to do computation, you might as well as consider that design into your design, because once you take it to the market, people are going to treat it the same way their preceders did. So another good example will be, most of us grew up in Tanzania, right? Remember the first powdered soap that we used was Omo. And you usually go to the shop and ask the shopkeeper to give you Omo. And while what you're implying really is just to give you a powdered form, which could be from any other brand, but Omo was the first, so you refer to anything of that particular nature as Omo. So you have to be in sync to your procedures and how you design your product. You don't want to be the odd one out, unless if you're the market mover, you're the first one to actually develop a product of that nature. Then you have that luxury.
Thank you, Bulungela. That was very insightful. I just realized today I cannot be unique. If I cannot be unique, like I have to look, if I'm designing something, I have to look like what others have done before and somehow follow their design. I think that's what you're trying to tell.
Yeah, so you have to be cautious about that.
And I cannot have a unique. I cannot have a unique product for that case.
No, you can have a unique product and a unique design, but same like flows which actually make sense. For instance, let's say why do we have on mostly maybe all browsers, why do you have the tabs on the top, not on the bottom?
Okay.
Like be it Mozilla, the default is on the top, not on the bottom. even though each have their own design, because the way we interact with different pages is by looking on the top side. That's how we have been using web browsers for the longest time. So if you're making a web browser, like a new web browser right now, you cannot be putting your tabs down below because you just want to have another different design of your own. It's just that the flow of how we've been using this product is by these tabs to be up. So you can have them up there and have different colors, have different intuitive way of actually doing it, but just the normal intuitive nature, you don't want to change the user's behavior, because that's a tough thing to do. Rather than you can adapt to their behaviors and you add increments into it.
Thank you for your talk, Bulengela. That was very insightful. Nadhani mwenye masikio na amesikia.
Yeah. So Mr. Robert says that's why intuitive design turns out to be following the expectation of the user has of your app's control and layout, which I actually concur with that. Intuitively, you have to follow what your users will actually be doing.
Thank you very much. I think since there is not any more questions, we should just end here. Thank you for speaking to DevFest Tanzania 2020. We were waiting to talk to you to the next sessions, maybe in other events, be it DevFest or Study Jam, or we'll get in touch with you. Thank you very much, Bulengela.
Sure. I would love to do that. Thanks a lot, Georgia, for the insights, for making this event a success. I know some of us have been procrastinating on even reserving our seats, but you've been patient with us. So I also want to thank you for you and your entire team for tirelessly pulling this thing together.
Thank you so much. Someone has a comment on the chat box.
Yeah, it says do not put a push plate on a door that needs to be pulled. Yeah, that's actually, that's like intuitively, once you're working on a door, that's actually what you're expecting. So if you give me another design, it's going to be very difficult for me.
Thank you so much, Robert.
Thanks a lot.
Robert, where are you chatting from?
Yeah, it's good to know where Robert is.
Maybe you can. Robert, where are you speaking from? Okay, Boston.
I'm calling from Boston. Nice to have you, Robert. We'd love to interact with all of you guys. Just to expand this ecosystem, we have a lot of challenges here in Africa that we actually have to solve, and we are the people who actually know what our users need. So let's get to work together.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Bulengela. Robert, thank you very much for your feedback. We are very happy to have you, and we are very happy to know that we have also people from other continents following our event. Thank you so much. So we can join other talks from the agenda. Let's go and join. Yeah, I think we'll have a networking session after other talks. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining.
Thanks.